am in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm just passing through, but I wanted to stop and give you guys a quick tour of one of my favorite classic movies that started out as a classic novel that was all written here and filmed here, and that is The Outsiders. Launched many huge Hollywood actors' careers. Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, C. Thomas Howell, Ralph Macchio, Emilio Estevez, one of his early roles. Just a lot of, Matt Dillon, a huge part of that movie. So it started out as a novel that was written right here and by S.E. Hinton, and then Francis Ford Coppola made it into a classic movie. It struck a chord with America's youth, watching the battle between the greasers and the Socs. The book is still in print, never has gone out of print. It's a very popular novel, and we're gonna go see where it was made. It was written here, it was filmed here, and we're gonna check it out. Let's travel. I'm Chris Bauer, and I am an art slinger. I travel around the US selling artwork at comic and anime conventions, and while I'm there, I like to check out cool sites, eat great food, and see all the places my favorite movies and TV shows are made. Welcome to Sets, Streets, and Eats. So I am here at the intersection of St. Louis and Independence Avenue, or as it's been renamed just behind me, The Outsiders and Curtis Brothers Lane, because we're in front of the house used in the film where the Curtis brothers lived. Ponyboy, Soda Pop, and Daryl Curtis, brought to life by C. Thomas Howell, Rob Lowe, and Patrick Swayze respectively, lived in this house, and their gang of associates used it as a home base of sorts. The house had multiple tenants after filming concluded and fell into disrepair over the years. Then in 2009, Danny Boy O'Connor, one-third of the hip-hop group House of Pain, was in town for a concert. Afterwards, he asked his taxi driver to take him to see the house from his favorite childhood movie. O'Connor discovered the house was in bad shape and bought it. He restored it to its former on-screen glory and opened a museum inside where you can view screen-used props, behind-the-scenes photos, and the rooms where the Curtis boys lived. The house looks exactly the way it looked on screen, right down to the porch furniture and the exact same fencing gate. One of the most memorable scenes is the ones where the guys are getting amped up before the rumble, and as they're leaving the house, I forget which character was doing the handstand on the fence. Then of course that truck was sitting right here that Tom Cruise does the backflip right off of. What's really cool is they allow you to enter and take pictures on the front porch, even when they're closed. She's my kind of woman. I need her so. Yeah, my kind of woman. I can't let her go. 5 feet of dynamite will keep me dancing through the night. It's really cool how preserved it was, because even when he bought it, which was only 10 years ago, obviously it had been in disrepair for some time, but just some of the unique elements of this house are just still there. And the neighboring houses, they still look just about identical from 40 years ago. Can you imagine that? 40 years, hardly anything's changed right here. It's just really neat. Also, if you ever do the museum, they actually do a bus tour of the different locations like what we're doing now. And I'm sure they have more that I don't even know about. So, again, check out the Outsiders Museum, owned by Danny O'Connor from House of Pain. So now we're gonna go pretty close to here is Crutchfield Park, and that is where there's a couple of very pivotal scenes were filmed. So let's do it. What do you think, little yo? You wanna go check out the park that they used in The Outsiders? I can't tell if you're nodding. You do? So I'm here in Crutchfield Park, which is about 2 blocks away from the Curtis brothers' house. And this is where the fountain was. So the fountain scene, very pivotal to the movie. This is where Johnny and Ponyboy start sitting out on the monkey bars right there. Obviously new equipment since then, those monkey bars are gone, or they were put in for the movie, who knows. And you can see the Socs go around that corner and pull up right in here. And they get out and they square off, they grab Ponyboy, they exchange words, give chase, and the Socs will grab Ponyboy and they start dunking him in this fountain here. It's a big circle. The other guys are beating up Johnny. Johnny's laying right over here, pulls out his switchblade, runs up, and stabs Bob, one of the Socs, and starts the domino effect of the boys having to run out of town, try to escape the murder, leading to the rest of the plot. But that happened all right here. The park is very similar to the way it used to look. I don't know if the fountain was added for the movie or if it was always here. It's empty now. If it was always here, they may have taken it down just from all the people trying to recreate a drowning scene or stabbing. You never know. So, you know, fans, not I, but fans are weird. So, you know, it's interesting. S.E. Hinton, she wrote this book when she was like 16 or 17. Like, can you imagine that? Writing the great American novel? I mean, I think I was still drawing wieners on walls and assuming I was clever. That's amazing. The fandom for Outsiders has obviously never gone away. If anything, it's increased quite a bit as more generations of fans are born and made every day. I know there's still a lot of high schools that still have The Outsiders as required reading, which is awesome. It's really a snapshot into Americana, the 50s and 60s, kind of like American Graffiti was for car culture. Just kind of goes through the life of teenagers in certain cities and whatnot, and I just think it's really neat. Speaking of it being required reading, the movie was made and championed by school teachers and librarians in California who made a little campaign on their own dime to see if anyone would make this movie, and Francis Ford Coppola took notice and read the book, loved it, and came to Tulsa and met with S.E. Hinton and said, hey, we're filming it right here. And here we are almost 40 years later talking about it. The Admiral Twin Drive-In. Now, if you remember in the movie, the guys, I think it was Ponyboy and Dally, they sneak into the movie. That's where Dally meets Cherry and of course starts sitting down her, which they, if you can see, that little orange building right over there, they sat right in front of that. And everything looks pretty much exactly the same. Not much has changed here actually, which again is another really cool feature of using Tulsa as this backdrop. It looks very much like it used to. Anyway, it's still here, still in use, obviously. Probably just opened back up, given the movies that are on there. S.E. Hinton actually wrote that scene that's filmed here in the book based off of actually watching socias and greasers, you know, intermingle, and based off of a girl, a soc girl and guy having a fight, and her coming over and sitting in the chairs that were always sitting there instead of sitting in the car with her boyfriend. So again, Tulsa is such a pivotal part, or character I should say, of the story, that it makes perfect sense that they would have filmed here just to get the authenticity right, and I believe it comes across on the screen. I'm sure you would agree. So I am standing in the spot where Matt Dillon's character Dallas, or Dally, died. So if you remember during his big death scene, so this was at night, they had fog, you know, wafting on the ground. It was supposed to be, I mean, it was a very beautiful scene, cinematically at least. He comes running across there. That I'm sure they've changed the fence, but that ball diamond's always been there. 40 years ago it was still there. He runs right past that fence, and the police are coming from that direction, and they're shooting him, and he stumbles all the way across, falling down, gets over to here, and he dies right here. Now this used to be more of a hill. You can obviously tell they repaved it, but it was only in the last 10 years. Honestly, for almost 30 years, the roads, all the cracks, everything still matched. They built, this is a new facility for, I'm assuming, training. It doesn't look like it's entertainment, but I think when they rebuilt that, they had to repave these two roads. But that's the only thing different now, is they leveled this up a little bit and they paved it so that the hill's gone. But his death spot right here at the edge of Crutchfield Park, right here, and then all the guys were standing around, if you remember, crying, right in this spot as they stood over his body as the cops kind of closed in. So much of it looks exactly the same. It's pretty neat. This is where they filmed The Rumble and The Outsiders. Now, this was all empty lots. See, these houses right here, these have been, since then, in the last 40 years, they've been built. So this was a big empty lot, but there's still part of the empty lot left right behind me. But if you can remember, the scene was, there was a bonfire going, all the greasers are sitting here waiting out front, and then around that corner, right in front of that blue house, which is on screen, you can see it, the socials pull around that corner, pull up right here. They get out and they're celebrating, which was kind of weird to do before the fight, but I guess they were getting amped up. And they come over here to meet the greasers. And of course, Dally, Matt Dillon's character Dallas, runs out from this direction so he doesn't miss the rumble as well. And they all face off right on this lot. Now, there's a couple reasons this scene is significant. Obviously, it's a big plot point for the movie. This was the big battle of the greasers, spoiler alert, win. And they put the socias in their place once and for all. But the other really cool story, and Rob Lowe talks about it in his autobiography, but Francis Ford Coppola, being the visionary that he was, he did a video feed so that he didn't have to be behind the camera out here when they were filming. He was in a trailer a couple blocks away, but he had a loudspeaker set up, so after a take he would yell out directions. And the night they started filming, they were racing against a rainstorm, so they were trying to set it up with that bonfire so that it was this nice smoky, kind of the way Dallas died, or Dally died, that almost fog, you know, to just make it add that ambiance to the fight. And you can tell this in the movie, the fight choreography is real clunky at the beginning. And of course Coppola just wasn't liking what he was seeing, so they would do take after take after take. And they didn't beat the storm and the rain started. And that was one of those happy accidents you get in filmmaking, where the rain started and it looked amazing and it changed the whole dynamic of the fight. And you can even see it on screen. It goes from real clunky to these guys are just beating each other mercilessly. And of course that Coppola loved it. So they had 3 or 4 more nights of shooting, and they had to bring in rain machines to recreate the rain. But Rob Lowe talks about how freezing cold all of them were, because they filmed this in the fall or early spring. It may have been early spring. Either way, it was still cold, very cold at night. And you can see on some of the scenes, you can see the breath and just the steam coming off the guys as they would do take after take. But ended up being a huge scene for the film, and it was filmed right here, and that's movie history. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little trip down movie memory lane. I know I enjoyed seeing the locations from The Outsiders as well. And I do love movie history, and it's really neat to be somewhere that launched so many great Hollywood careers. So I hope you'll join me next time on Set Streets and Eats. We'll see you on down the road.